inclusion and social transformation. We're going to have the pronunciation of the Minister of the Federal Court of Accounts. Good afternoon, all. Just to say, from my satisfaction to be with you today once more during this event, I'd say of great importance not only for the Federal Court of Accounts, but the national system of control, our international partners of all SFs, but above all, we have the honor of having here with us today the event owner that gave all the contributions to reach this success that we have today, which is our president, Minister Vital Rego, in which I salute and thank in the behalf of all the organizations and the people who have come out of their states and countries to be here with us today and exchange ideas in the moment that I consider so important. I'd say when it comes to the seminar, it's beyond being an international seminar, it is a seminar that is happening today in our cooperative university and our house of knowledge of Instituto de Correia. Our satisfaction, not only the honor of the presence of the president, Editado Hogo, but all the international panelists, the director of GSM, Lucas, that will have his panel in a little bit. I'd say that this seminar is very important and has a great quality because the embeds that we're having today are representatives of three spheres of the National Congress and the organization of the third sector, and beyond the expertise of national institutes. And more than 1,300 of people are remotely participating on YouTube. Beyond more than 200 that are here with us, so important in this discussion and in this path of knowledge and learning curve. So I'll take this just to talk about my gratitude on the Vital Rego and from my cabinet for being in this event, and we have such satisfaction to hear him and register in the opening. We count with his presence, Augusto Nadres, that was here with us today. So with his words, following up, conducting our plenary session, and with satisfaction, I'll invite Vital Rego, the president. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am very honored in being here and being presented by the Minister Sedais because I have 11 years in this court and I've followed up each administration, and I always do a figure of imagine in my head that the court is this locomotive in which each place has its president, and it doesn't has continuity, it doesn't break and it doesn't stop going, and its chain, it keeps there, and each president has its mark and their own DNA and is worried about the past as well, because his commitment as a whole is to follow up the other people, the other cards of this locomotive that has been following up the last decade of big transformation in the world and has followed up the development the so spectacular development of Minister Cedrais on the presidency of the court, in which his actions converged exactly for what it is today: the digital inclusion, the technology of information, the artificial intelligence, and everything was the competence of the cabinet of Minister Sebras, the knowledge in the field, the attention that he gave to the transformations, always asking for the support to visit other countries, way more advanced than ours. So, Minister Sidrais, what we're doing here today, it's not more than continuing your work when you've left the court divided in before and after yourself. So, the investment that we're doing in technology is very pleasing to me. And each year I tell my team what is necessary to develop information technology, artificial intelligence, maximizing our outcomes. You can count on me always. Allow me at this moment to highlight the role of the uh, uh, Court of Accounts and how is acting. This plan is a direct response for the challenges by millions of Brazilians that are in the borders of the digital revolution. The numbers are very alarming and challenge us to act urgently. In Brazil, 12 million of homes don't have access to internet. 12 million. 20,000 million people excluded from those digital services. In their majority, they belong to the classes D and E and live in rural areas in the northeast and the north of our country. In municipalities with less than 50,000 people living there, there are women, people who are black, and they are in those low level of cognitivity. And I would like to reinforce this central point in our presidency: the focus on the citizen. The digital inclusion needs to be, above all, a state policy turned to people, to the Brazilians that are still excluded from the opportunities that this environment offers. The National Plan of Digital Inclusion is an initiative that is essential to face those challenges. It is not limited to guaranteeing the access to internet. It seeks to offer connectivity that is universal and meaningful. And I understand that this plan needs fundamental issues, quality connection, equipment, the capacity building, and digital security. So beyond that, it's important to recognize that the digital inclusion is not only technical or telecommunication. It needs an integral approach, and it has different barriers that are faced by the citizens. In this sense, the tribunal is going to be aware of all the steps, the formulations, implementation of the plan. Our commitment is to guarantee that the plan is effective and that the actions will come to the citizens and the resources will be utilized in an efficient and transparent way. I'd like to suggest that the results of the discussions of the seminar will be taken to the working group of PNED and also to the presidents of the houses of the Senate. And the social inclusion is a theme that needs mobilization of all the sectors of society. With only this articulation, it will be possible to guarantee the resources and the actions that are necessary for the implementation of the measures that the plan is proposing. Ladies and gentlemen, the digital exclusion challenges us. We cannot allow that millions of Brazilians are in the borders of the technological revolution that is transforming the world. I hope that we can get out of this seminar with the ideas, reflections, and proposals and commitments that will transform the connectivity, meaningful connectivity, in a reality for all of us. Again, Minister Cedrais, I salute you for this meeting and all the secretariats that are involved in this magnificent event that certainly will be included in the memory of this court in the area of technology of information. Thank you very much and welcome. To prophesize the panel, we inform the innovation and digital technology to reduce the inequalities. We invite the director of the mobile operations, Lucas Galito. Hello, good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to say Minister Haroldo, President Vital, for the invitation. Thank you. Second place, I'm sorry about my Portuguese. It clearly is not my first or second language, so probably will be Portuguese or Portuñol, the presentation. I am the director of GSMIA for the Latin America, and I think it's a very relevant point to this conversation. The power of the digitalization to reduce inequalities is something that GSMA has been working for a long time. And I wanted to ask, with 5G is gonna happen. Is it working? Yeah, with 5G we got it. Probably 6G, nah. I think we need to go through the next. We came back to 2G then, not 5G. So I'd like to begin. We'll go to the next question. I'd like to ask, do you know what GSMA is? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? No, everybody knows. So excellent. You've brought this slide. The GSMA is this global association of mobile operations. We contribute with all the governments to have this regulation and public policies that would allow investments to connect quickly the people, more people in a more accessible way. Of course, a lot of people know the GSMA because we organize each February the real estate congress, and as a participant of this event every year, where you discuss the public policies that will connect the next generation of technologies. So I think everybody who's here, we have connection for mobile services. We have to be feeling very privileged. We are 58% of the population worldwide has today this broadband connection. 38% lives in this coverage of broadband but doesn't utilize it, and we're gonna get into this after. And 4% is, which is this gap of usage, only 4% of the population is not with this coverage of mobile services. So we need to work in terms and uh, see solutions that we're discussing, and satellites, and part of the conversation that we had with GSMA, with the sector of industry. We'll go forward to the next. Something that is important that GSMA has been working on is to understand, I am an engineer, I like numbers, is to understand what is the diagnosis today of connectivity, so we can apply public policies and regulation that will allow to connect the rest of the population. So it's very important. And what are the barriers, the numbers to work in those specific points? So go to the next. So this journey of adoption of mobile internet has different steps. The first step is the adoption of the phone. This today is well known for by everybody almost. And the second step is the mobile internet, so it's possible for us to access. And the third step, the adoption of a phone with this broadband, that has access to a broadband. And we've been working with different projects. And the fourth is the adoption of mobiles, the daily usage of the internet, and diverse use of mobile internet. I really like TikTok, Instagram, and part of the daily usage, to understand how we can utilize it to contribute to the GDP of the country and globally, utilizing the service to really, for things that will add value. For the next class, but then, as I've been saying, I talked a little bit about the barriers. One of the barriers is the accessibility. And President talked about the inequalities of revenue and incapability of paying devices. This is one of the main barriers, which is the device. And we'll see the cost of the services is inside of the percentage that is the integration of telecommunications will establish a number that is rational for the population to access these mobile services. The second point is digital skills. When I put my mom in the subject, she hates this. It changes the screen, the photo on her screen, and she's like, Lucas, I cannot navigate the internet, and blah, blah, blah. And it's how to use the tools as the computer or the mobile. And the third point is very important in Latin America is relevancy and confidence. I'm going to tell you a story that is very relevant. Who knows me knows that I like planes, this industry. So I have a friend that he's a captain on the and every time that we talk about the industry and such, we end up talking about this. Last year we were having this conversation, and he would tell me, Lucas, today the planes, they fly themselves, they can get down by themselves, and this is what we've been talking at that time. They don't have work. So he told me, do you know why the only reason I am in computer every day at the beginning of the days? And because if it wasn't that way, probably 300 people a while ago, they wouldn't go into the planes. They need to feel the confidence on the service to adopt it. So I think it's very relevant to the security, and we do this research a whole world in Latin America, confidence and trust, and it's bigger on the rest of the world. So we have this big barrier in the Latin America for those digital services. The other point of barrier is the relevancy, especially the internet and English. The idiom of internet is English, so we have Portuguese and Portugal at this right now. So one of the main points is try to generate content, products, and services in the local idiom language, so people can adopt and with reach and responsibility, that are the contents and services that are friendly with the users. So those are a few barriers that we have identified throughout the world, especially in the Latin America. So we'll go to the next.
The accessibility that we were talking before, just only two things that is very relevant for this meeting. The first of all, that is since 2019, Brazil reached one of the goals of accessibility that is from the OIT and the agents of United Nations specialized in telecommunications with the sign of large-scale internet costing 2% of the income, the GDP. This is really relevant. Not all of the countries in Brazil has this devices here. And one another interesting thing, where is Latin American related to other region? Latin America today is closer to Europe than the and then Africa. And women in the South America is not that high like in other countries. And it's important to understand that where Latin America is playing right now. Next one, there is different indexes. One of them is the mobile connectivity. There is two important points. The first one, that there's this mobile index, is the development of 170 countries about the different access of data of mobile internet datas, infrastructure, accessibility. If we go to in 2015, Brazil was above average in Latin America, but after that, Brazil it's closer to the leader countries, maybe because of public policies like that that we have. There's some of them are reference for the rest of the Latin American or maybe the rest of the world. Maybe the biggest auction, for example, that we have is a references all over the world, and that allows us to take Brazil to the second place, or the second mobile internet faster in the world. The For the management of the spectrum and the tools of inclusion is one of the points that are very important for you to take with you. Next slide. The lack of coverage, we make an analysis 2 years ago that analyzes a lot of countries of Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, uh, Costa Rica, and the question that we asked ourselves was until where the market could allow to extend the coverage of 4G. So one important point is to see if there wasn't a space of this coverage without external help, only with the strength of the market. So it's important to understand that with these results, Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, they are very next to the limits of the market. In Costa Rica and Colombia, there is still a meaningful space to improve of the expansion of the services. I believe the QR code are on the screen for those who want to analyze the work that we've done. There's all of the details. The next one. And, one important point is to understand what we talk about the digital inclusion. We have increase of 10% on the for the GDP of the broadband of the economy of the South America. This impact is 1.2% in a GDP. And I believe that is very interesting because this work allows me to travel for a lot of places, is to see how the connectivity changed the life of people. And this is just a number over here, and 10%, 1.2%. But when we listen these real stories of the people that the life changed because now they are connected, this is really when we feel that we are making the difference. So the number is not that, but the impact on the life of people that move us. So how we talked a little bit about the diagnosis, what we see in the world in Latin America and Brazil, but how can we decrease the lack of a connectivity beyond the possibilities of the market? So some we have some relevant things over here. We see that we have possibilities with the financial additional financial to improve this lack of connectivity. And you see besides of the demand, the total effects, as you see, you have the lack of connectivity, the lack of offer, the gap of offer on the side of the demand, the total of it's variable and has a effectiveness of the reduction of 16%. So we have a lot of different options to decrease this gap, and the expansion of the last mile, that is like 80% of the investments, is fundamental to expand the offers but also the demand. The next one. And the work that I talked minutes before, we have a specific analysis for country, for each country, on how how much is necessary to invest to close the gap of offer. We have a point that is 99% of connectivity supply. And to be there with 4G, we will need two, 100 and $1,200 to close this until 3,500, and will be necessary to close this gap. What shows you is that the efforts of each percentage that we have to do when you are in the limit of the market is very high. So another point is the lack of supply of the demand, I'm sorry. And this, if you increase the demand, for an example of the digital literacy or cross transparency, so it's about 50 and $350 per person, additional per person. An important thing is that none of the countries that we analyze reach the universal connectivity without reforms or additional finance. So the limit of the market is very clear. Just to conclude and trying to summarize for you, three points. One is the compatibility of the tax loads to with the objective of the use of the coverage. I was talking that Brazil is the third worst country in this region about the taxes, and the important is example is from Argentina. They decrease the value for some of the devices, so the final impact that we're gonna have cheaper devices in 30%. This is gonna be one of the more significant barriers. and try to have tax schemes that are more compatible to the investments. Another point in the synergy of actors to improve of the digital literacy, and we have a interesting program that internet skills that is a private public partnership with actors that made available the action of the governments of a digital turb to contribute with the digital literacy. Maybe none of you heard this before, and some of the things that we are doing and spread this the possibilities that we have in the table to reduce the gap of use. And the third point is the reinforce and incentives to investments through the regulatory modernization. The important thing here is from the analysis of the founds that none of the countries, almost none of the countries in Latin America has an idea how is using these funds, how many people is using them. So one of the most important points that we have here, that we are working in the governments, is to understand how these funds are being used and who is using them, how many people were connected to the programs. Today we don't have enough clarity about this. So, finally, I'd like to thank the Minister Arodo from the TCU for the opportunity to share with you the vision of GCMA with more connectivity. I hope that my Portuguese worked, and so, but the Portugal maybe is work better, but I didn't want to make my lecture in a different language. So once again, I thank you, and I made myself available for any questions later. We thank the presentation of the director Lucas Galito. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue with the sixth panel that we have the as a topic success cases in states and municipalities. We'd like to inform you that you can make questions and send it through the formula that you have from the YouTube. You can ask by the chat of the event. By the end of the panel, the questions are going to be directed to the moderator. For the sixth panel, we invite the journalists of the digital conversions of Luis Grossman, the Director of Technology and Information of Ceará, David Aguiar Gois. The Secretary of Technology and Digital Transformation of Recife, Rafael Cunha. We also invite the founder of the Committee of Democratization of Informatics, Rodrigo Baggio. Thank you very much. With the floor, Luis Grossman, that is gonna conduct the panel and the debate. And good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for the invitation. I'd like to thank TCU also. I believe that the rules of the game is like they each one of you have a presentation, and with if we have some time, we make some questions. The context is what you're talking about is the digital inclusion, the experiences of the states and municipalities, and what the private sectors and the partnerships, the non-governmental partnerships can movement the scenario in Brazil. So let's start. I don't know if you have an order. Let's start with Rafael. Please talk a little bit about you, what do you see, your presentation, then we move on. I have some questions over here. Let's see what the time allowed us to do. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank especially for TCU for the invitation, and I'd really like to thank you. I'd like to say that I'm a civil servant, that I mean a federal civil servant, and I'm working in the state right now. I have a graduation in computing. I have the experience to spend some time here in Brazil, and I have two kids over in here. And TCU, I have a special care because all of us that try to be a civil servant wanted to be here. And it's funny because I was sitting over here, didn't have the opportunity to talk to him, but Professor Gladson Pompe was my teacher. And if today I'm a civil servant, I own a little bit Professor Gladson because he helped me a lot. And besides that, in my story, I have the opportunity to have a lot of friendships over here that are here today. I saw some of them here and I write down their name. I saw Wesley over here. I don't know if he'd left before. And it's a reference for us that work with digital transformation, and Professor Gladson, and Rodrigo Felizardo, Daniel Genzilli, Aline Gonçalves. They are close friends that today are here. And I have the pleasure also to have as a mentor Minister Anastasia in a leader program of leadership that I did in Senado. And until today, I have contact with him, and sometimes I ask him for some help as when I need, and to conclude my presentation and my relation with TCU, and my wife works here, and today we live in Recife, but me and my two daughters, we are very proud to have her acting as an audit in the public framework. And about Recife, let me see if it's working. And through this 10 years in Brasilia, my experience was in GovBR, and I believed what I believed in, and maybe it was the best thing that I could live in the digital transformation in the government. And when I went back to Recife, I discovered that I found out that Recife has went beyond the GovBR. A lot of the results that they have today, more than 60 millions of the user on the GovBR for a population that we have more than 20 millions. It's not a few, it's a lot. We are in the second country in advancing the digital governance, but I believe that the dynamics that happen in the federal government and what happens in the point bring a lot of challenges, because the challenges, they come to our door in an easy way, but give us the opportunity to make changes in the life of people. So I said that has everything to do with the with a motto that we have in Recife, and our motto is SPC. He's not even Alexandre Pires for the same name, so from the group, and it means simplify. The S is from simplify. Use technology to simplify the relationship with the citizens, piece to promote the people and promote our city through the technology and care of the people. This is for care through the technology and use the technology as an instrument of care. When we talk about inclusion and digital literacy, we have to take care, of course, and with the P of promotion, they are very important in this logic. And I believe that simplification is very clear for those who work in technology. For us who work in this field, know that technology is an instrument to, to, to transform something that it was to something easier, faster, and this is the logic of efficiency of simplification that is always on my mind. Now I open my mind to see how the technology is a tool for transformation. And in Recife, the most important example that we have for promotion, I'm sorry, for simplification is our Connect Recife. It's Connect Recife in our municipality, a platform that 4 years ago had only 8,000 users and only one service and access to connect to the networks of the city. And today it is our uh, only portal for the access of 800 access that the city hall offers, and trespassing the 3,000 services that we can have that they can access in our platform. We have more than 1 million and a half of downloads in the apps of downloads, and that for a city that have a population that more than 1.5 million. So I believe that we achieve and everyone that live in Recife through the connect and looking through the simplification. The great example that I can give you to you know the rule of three clients. If you have more than three clients, it's confusion, it's not easy, the person is not going to find it. And today in Recife, for an example, if you wanted to ask a change of a lamp in the outside of your house, can you believe, imagine how you do that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and if you click in that image, it's a public energy. You put a pin on it, and if you wanted to send a picture, you send it and click in confirm, and that opens a call in the company that makes the maintenance of the lightning in the streets, and you can campaign through the connections, and you receive a message through WhatsApp to see if the service was made and how was it, and then you can check if it happens. So with no doubt it is an example of simplification that we have been trying to do, and connected has been these two of for simplifying this relationship between the city hall and the citizens. But we went beyond that. Recife has been using the this tool as a promotion, and from Recife, I believe is the best one. My secretary as said that he can that I can increase in 10, for 10 reais, but I do it with five. Those who get in the app right now and doesn't have a job offer, a job offer now, I sent you a pics of 10 reais because this is a phenomenon. October of 2021, we launched this platform. Everyone says to her that we were crazy because we wanted to create a LinkedIn or something, LinkedIn or something like that. That in fact, 4 years later, we have more than 107,000 curriculum in the register. Every day we have new job offers, and I was with the mayor amplifying in an event of amplification of one of the companies of the digital part. And only yesterday we launched 100 new job offers for the technology, for the computing area. And one the critical success part that we have is WhatsApp. And one some of it was and I couldn't say that the pages weren't passing, and this should be a problem that they have for a long time. But nobody put the curriculum on that to looking for job in the goal. Not any company do that. For after that, see the to look for the professional.
He goes one time put their curriculum in that platform, and then it would be forgotten. And then when he's going on the bus, he will take a WhatsApp. Hello, Rafael. Go ahead, see if he has found you a spot, and with one click, he goes to that. Which company doesn't want to put that opportunity in that platform that does it in a free way and with a basis of more than 107,000 curriculums? Which person is not unemployed and is going to put that curriculum in there? So this is why Recife has been referenced in employment. We generated more than 100,000 jobs, and we broke record. We had 4,000 formal employments in the last 3 months. We are one of the three cities in Brazil with most employability, and this is because we've been utilizing technology as a tool to promote people and taking from point A to point B, taking it out of unemployment to employment, and this is what Recife has been doing. And try and finish within my time the care. I could talk about so many examples, but the big example we have here is the journey of life. The journey of life is a logic of life journey from Stone and that we've done in Recife. And I'm going to give you an example. We've digitalized the uh, national plan of internet. Each child that is born in the public service, the guardians will get all the vaccination marks of that child, telling them what is the vaccination that they need to take in that age, giving them congratulations, happy birthday, but telling them uh, where they should take this vaccination, what is the cost, and they had from 66 to 70% of immunization throughout the years. So this is how the technology can utilize and be utilized as an instrument to care for people. Inside of Connecta, you can follow up all the vaccination calendar and the ones that have been taken and not taken. And the WhatsApp, it's not only the vaccination you're going to take that month, but where it's lacking vaccines. And this is an example of how we've been utilizing technology. And here I brought some examples, but I'd like to show you in the screen how inside of this line of simplification we have so many projects that will treat from the amplification of the access of the public services. I think the biggest example is the zero click that I've been talked about. Sometimes the citizen doesn't even have to ask. We work with evidence, with data. And if I know that the citizen with 60 years old has this credential for parking lots, the receiver is going to send it to him, the congratulations for the 60 years old and the credentials for the parking. There are examples of amplifying the access to services without even asking, and these are the one of the examples that we've been utilizing there, but also improve the communication, and that communication that is going to go back and forth. And talking about artificial intelligence, we have this tool in Recife, which is Audit 4.0, that will take all of those stores of mobile evaluation of services and all of their letter of services and distribute in all the secretaries that compose the secretary, and a secretary like me, education or health. It will go to that platform and see the letter of services in which the citizen has feedback, because we utilize AI first for all the manifestations and doing this recognition of the patterns of recognizing if the manifestation is positive, negative, or neutral. And we also do as this written manifestation, for example, 5 stars, or you put it written down, utilization of artificial intelligence to synthesize and do this cloud of words and take it, what are the main concerns of the population. And we also work nexus of promotion, caring for people and the city, and caring for people and the promotion of people. The example of Recife, and we have the digital navigation, for instance, that is this productive inclusion in the area of information. It is a course that municipalities have given we have been able to employ hundreds of young people in this public education of the city, and also the promotion of the city when you do events and bring new businesses for the digital world. And the secretariat will be a part of that and is responsible for this promotion, and also taking care on the logistics or taking care of people and the cities, because we have projects in which we've been using AI, for instance, because of the mobility of the city. How can we've been working with Google, consolidating data of Google Maps, Waze, and all the history of the center of operations in a basis that we can utilize artificial intelligence to have this administration and improve the quality of the traffic in our cities. And this is we've been doing not only for the people of the distribution of this, but also the city looking at the urban mobility and climate resilience, which is a demand that is very urgent for everyone, but for us in Recife even more because of the city's characteristics. I see here uh, that I'm sorry if I extended myself too much. No, it was great, Rafael. Thank you for to talking about the experience of the municipality and the offer of services. I'm going to pass it on to Davi to talk about of the services of Ceará and having this important infrastructure. I already have so many questions, but let's talk about it and then I'll ask. Firstly, excellent presentation, Rafael. The Northeast has been evolving a lot with this digital inclusion. Ceará, we also have Digital Ceará, which is this unique application that give all those services of transit and traffic and all that. And for the citizens, and I thought it was interesting that you don't wait for the application. The citizen goes after that, and it's a very important thing that I think that the states, the municipalities, or the federal government need to think about. If there's rights, you give those rights to the people. So my name is David Goys. I'm director of operations of the uh, information company of Ceará, and we have this hub of technology, and we're responsible to foment the technology inside of the government. And being a company, we commercialize this for other entities, municipalities, federal institutions, and general way to Brazil. And I'm in the area of operations now, 8 months now in this area, but I've been in this company for 2 years, more or less. I'm married. I have two daughters. I think they're watching me right now. My anxiousness is for me to give this importance to them and give them my regards. And the project is Ceará Connected. If we're delivering the digital citizen, we need to have infrastructure as well. How is the city going to connect? And this 4G and localities you don't have 4G and localities that this kind of, so you have like five chips so you can try and see which coverage is going to come. So the idea is the free Wi-Fi in the squares for all the Cearenses through connectivity. I'm not talking about I'm talking about the network and these public localities in partnership with the municipalities. We can make available those free connections for all population. And before we go to this part of project, I'm going to talk about the ETC, which is a public company in the state of Ceará. It was created of 006 for the law 13006, and now is a company which is HEC, and it's a exclusive capital for Ceará. And It acts in all the practically all the national territory, and this digital um, digital circle, and it's all in Ceará, and a study and a lot of restrictions, and how can they do this is a lot of money, and the government at the time, we need to deliver connectivity and free internet and the organs for the society in a general way. So if we didn't have something so disruptive and that has been done, and how is it today in the digital sector, and how is it today? Because it serves as a model as well to be presented. So the target audience in which we focused is the organs of states and the municipalities. We make available this connectivity with so much speediness, and we are in Sigurd we have this project to have 400 gigabytes per second. So this is state of Ceará. This part in blue, if you can see and identify, is my backbone grid. And the brown one are the ramifications when I go inside the city. So with those backbones, it goes through the city, and my ramifications go inside, and it makes it so I have a lot of availability. If one comes out, and then I can do this passage for another way, and I have this high availability in case anything fails. So this presentation had 5069, but now we got an update that now we have 5900 905 kilometers. There are today localities that we cannot get with the fiber, but and through partnerships we can get and deliver this connectivity of high quality to the public organs and the population of Ceará. And digital belt, on the grid we have 139 municipalities, as is commented. We can have we attend to 184, but 139 has fiber. And now we're going to get into a connectivity in Ceará. They had three phases. The first one, the government took Camilo Santana, that today is our Senate and Minister of Education. And in the first phase, we get to municipalities, and then I had my acting into this, and I had the program of getting delivered by the middle of the next year, and then let's do it at the end of the year. And this week I have concluded. I've delivered to 78 municipalities at least one point of Wi-Fi that is free for society. So it's very nice because in the municipalities they do this. They divulge everything. They show the moment, and so it's a very good interaction with the city and the citizen, and this partnership is really nice. We didn't have any problems with the municipalities that we were interested in doing this free Wi-Fi, and there's no. It's about um, the municipalities need to give this structure and energy and security for the locality. So this is what the municipalities do. We come out with the fiber, the connectivity, and the equipments that make that so the people are able to connect and have their internet. This is the flow. You get into the square, there's a QR code, you point it out, and then this part is going to be connected. And you put your information. If there's no registry, it will go out into a different line. Then you can put other data that it doesn't have, and then afterwards it will be followed up to the website. but we are directing it to Instagram at this moment because we understood that population is accessing it. There's this municipality involvement, collab, devo- um, so we did this movement with the accessory of communication. So how is it going to be connected? The social and promotion of social digital inclusion, the local community access to leisure, and we understand today that uh, giving free internet is so important as uh, infrastructure of water, energy is something of that means dignifying our population. So we brought this from the state exactly to understand that our role in this inclusion, digital inclusion, and this process of a digital Brazil and a city that's digital. And I've commented, we look the model of Estonia compared to our state is 3 times better. Estonia is 5 times smaller, the population, but when we talk about technology, it has been scaling, and I believe that is uh, why in 8 million we were not going to make it work. Why in a Brazil that is 280 billions it wouldn't work. It's scalable, right? So we need us as citizens and participants of the government of any federal entity or municipal or whatever. We need to be part of this. And before I came here, I was in a digital citizen that is a congress that has been happening in a hotel, Tulip Hotel, with NGE, and I was part of the opening, and the ministers were talking about the uh, the number that the citizen has. If you don't have this validation of registry where they live, which is the age, and the informations to try and understand these benefits, I was there and I was there and here, and to thank Luis that did this invitation to be here is a big responsibility because it's an international congress. So it's not a situation only of Brazil when it comes to connectivity and transforming the citizens digitally. We have a lot of this issue of dignity of the Cearense and the Brazilian people. So no, I still have stuff to say. Just wait a second. The steps of implementation is the manifestation of interest and energy and the elaboration of the technical projects and configuration of equipment, official of the project, and maintenance. So we have all the municipalities that will come to us. And with those targets, as a director, I needed to be proactive and go after it before waiting for them to come to me. So this is some of the context, and we are talking to the ministers and trying to make things happen.
Over here you have some of the points. This is state of Ceará once again, and then I have separated in green. It make for this the first phase and the other for the second phase, and in red is the offline points. So we have this supervision over here. We have our system, and when we get this information, and then we go over there to the red spots to work on that. If you saw only one red point, you can use this QR code. You can see where the points are available or not at this moment. And the government is working about the transparency also, as Rafael said before. He was the first one. He said, "You go, you are gonna look for if you find a job. I pay you 10 reais." This is transparency. Is saying that you're showing things the ways they are happening, And then we have a goal to deliver what people, the Brazilian people, needs and wants. These are some signs. You can pass the signs. And here it's me once again, David God's operation director. Thank you very much. I had a video. I don't know if you could pass it, but it's a video of the when we were publishing this program. I'm gonna pass some. It's 30 seconds of video. There's a fun video. Okay, thank you very much once again. Congratulations, Dave. We talk about service infrastructure. Uh, Rodrigo passed some of the work of our code, and then we are gonna. Okay, thank you very much for the invitation once again. Congratulations to you for organize this international congress that is very qualified in this context of the launch of the National Program of Digital Inclusion. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our experiences and our code in the ERC and the digital inclusion here in Brazil. I got in love with technology and program with 10 years old using the basics, and 12 years old I started working with the poor kids in the Rio de Janeiro in the center of the city, and for me was the discover of the two big passions in my life, technology and social work. When I was 17 years old, I had a vision that showed me a way directed for the use of technology for the citizens. And at 20 when I was 23, after IBM created IDOTech and that get technology in the most important schools in Rio de Janeiro, I started to reflect on by my future, and I saw me 10 years richer but not fulfilled, and I tried to reflect on how can I transform my life. And 10 months after this, I have a vision that I saw kids in the favelas using technologies to get to know their reality, and uses these technologies to transform their own life and transform their reality and the community. And that's why I decided in the next day to try to make this dream come true, to make easier the access of technology for the vulnerable people. And then when I started in 94, the first campaign of donation of computers in Latin America, the first one of a campaign of technological recycling, we get the old computers and recycle them and gave to the communities, and it grows a lot that we have a base in Tokyo. They transport the computers for the Latin America, and that UNESCO receive us and enter in the countries of Latin American, and we get this technology to the low income community all over the South American. And March we created in 95, we created the first college of technology, the first project of technology in a favela here in Brazil. That was Santa Marta in Botafogo do Rio de Janeiro. It was the most violent one at the time. Uh, and then we started to for the people that lived in in those favelas using the technology like the citizen too. In March in 2095, we have the first ONG of inclusion in Latin America. And when we launched this first technological school, until today, I don't know that 11 newspapers, TVs, radios, magazines came to cover and then create an action that more communities started asking us, demanding from us for us to create this. And then we create this CDI, and we start creating the centers of the digital empowerment. And 30 years after that, we helped to create more than 9,000 centers of digital empowerment, impacting millions of peoples. And this is a work that happens through this the last 30 years, and we passed through three industrial revolution. The first one from the computer internet, that it was very focused on our to focus on us to teach people how to use the computers, but through a methodology inspired in Paulo Freire that is simulated people to use technology to create projects that impact the reality in the communities. And in 2015 and 16, in the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution, we have the first transformations in Brazil for development from tax of mobile between people with vulnerability. You put Pro, and we changed the logo, and in the other countries we kept the CDI. We wanted to try to transform the life of people through all of for 40 hours of formation, that when we have people on vulnerability prioritizing women and black people, and in 540 hours we form them and transform the life of these people. We have a lot of beautiful histories of impact and transformation, like Ronaldo. I get to know Ronaldo in the prison in Rio de Janeiro, where we have a center of digital empowerment. And Ronaldo was the first one that organized with the faction, uh, the the kidnappers to have the return of money. He was the leader of three important factions in Brazil, of Rio de Janeiro, and he was in prison for 10 years. And at that place, he started to be a educator, and he started to transform the life of people. He reduced this penalty and went back to his community and created ONG, and he's an example now of a person who has a life transformed for better. And then we started to form this person, these people, that until 2 years ago we saw the evolution of open AI and ChatGPT, and we noticed that a lot of I think that it was really new happening in the world, and we have to rethink, and that we start to think about a pilot in 10 favelas in Rio de Janeiro, creating groups of youth and community, and through that we create a new curriculum of teaching of social impact on digitalization. We transform it for the formation of development of in AI, and create a coalition of companies for democratization of the AI, generative AI. And we start focus of our projects for the huge challenge in the humanity in our days is how to humanize and democratize the generative AI. The prototypes of our projects that our students do in the favelas impressed us. For an example, in the complex of Alemão, we had we have our course ongoing, but 50% of the classes were canceled because of the invasion of police, the traffic, and so the students created an app for security in the community, that the people use this app, but for when they have war traffic or the invasion of the police, they have a safe place to go. They created a virtual gallery on the metaverse for more than 250 images that was created by generative AI, talking about the future of the youth of these communities. And the Cantagalo, Pavãozinho, those favelas, they create a virtual game board for reduction of the residues of the they interact with all of the students, proposing concrete actions of campaigns of reduction of residuals. and and they started to notice that how AI could be used in a humanity way in the favelas. Today we are here talking about our experiences, but I'd like to share with you one of the biggest example of the collaborative impact, that is connect Povos da Floresta Connection, that is a movement of collaborative impact, that is one of the biggest connections of an Amazons, with most of the 80 organizations together working, trying to connect 5,000 um, indigenous peoples' lands and communities that go beyond of the connectivity of these lands and these quilombos. That is a work that use this connectivity for health, telemedicine, education, entrepreneurship, security and protection of the lands, and culture and ancestrally. Two, 2 years after that, we have more than 1,900 village indigenous community and quilombolas with leaderships using these technologies in a citizen way. We are we we are trying for a generative in AI for the people in the forest with that is a woman that it calls people for the people from the forest with the main goal to support the development and security of these territories. Yesterday you have the talk of Galiza that is from the council just like me. And the presence of you in this international seminar is very important because you've been representing not only the quilombos in Brazil, but you bring the ancestrally of this about the inclusions. So a round of applause for Galizo. It's very good to have you here. Through this work, I reconnect with moments in my life on the CDI and our code. We started in 98 to empowering in a digital way indigenous, the Guaranis in Rio de Janeiro. And it was the first time that I started seeing these indigenous leaderships trying to translate for their own language the words in English words that we still use that we fluently, so they start to give names to computer. Iruri, Rurivid, that is means box to put the language. And after that, in '99, when I got to know Ayrton Krenak, we created the network people of the forest that started to connect some indigenous people to internet at the time using satellite internet through Star One that have a big antenna, and it was expeditions that we organized, and it was very interesting. For example, in Azaxaninca that live in the border of Peru in the state of Acre, the Azaxanicas, they started to be invaded for traffickers from the Peru. In this process, they invaded the territory to contraband guns and wood and also rape their women. And one day they declared war to the narco traffics from Peru, and they have machine guns and everything, and they have only um, arrows and things like this, and we have a more powerful weapon than them. And everyone said we have the internet, and then they decided to write an email for the president of Brazil. We are the indigenous people here, Oxaninca. We are Brazilian. We don't have the army here to protect us, protect our territory. So we are going to war against the narco traffic from Peru. This email sent it for the president started a movement, and ONGs and organizations try to go there, and this and the president sent um, planes from the our for our army, and then it started the war. This is a proof that internet and the digital inclusion could be used for safety and preservation of the people of the forest. So I'm very happy to be here with all of you talking about this project. And our next dream is to bring innovation of this digital studies for the public schools in Brazil from the states and municipalities. And so we know the importance is to take this, the democratization of the generative AI for all of the public schools in Brazil. And this absolutely have to be part of the national plan of AI with the investments of 1.2 billion. informations of the AI. We need to use this new technology in a way in a way that should transform our country. Thank you very much once again, and let's go to the debates and the discussions. Village community. Okay. Thank you, Rodrigo. I have some questions to be answered. I'm using my Wi-Fi here in Ceará to not use my mobile internet. The government of Ceará is you have to access the website and then you connect to the internet that we have in the squares here now in Ceará. Congratulations for your work. We have 20 minutes to talk about the a lot of things that of digital inclusion and all of the doors that you open and some of the questions that we have here. I'm gonna try to share a little bit, understand that we are in this scenario of a digital inclusion. And the first question that happens to listen to you that in the city with the Wi-Fi of the state or on the villages of indigenous people, we are getting that with the infrastructure. I'm asking as a point of view that it's thinking about development and and, you know the first question is Brazil try find a way to resolve this digital inclusion problem. GSMA said that 28% of the connections need some support from the state, and the state is doing things like Wi-Fi bridges for people access the services. This infrastructure is at hand. Do you know the state and municipality, they understand the what is the how much it is for the people who have access on their cell phone. They are doing this with their private program. How you do see this in this context if the and go into these villages of indigenous people that are very far away from a network. How do you do this is the first question that I made. Let's start with Rafael, after that David and Rodrigo, and then I go back for another question. And this hard question starts with me. I hope that it started for the other point. As my point of view, I would say, like, in fact, that we have a huge worry, the federal government, the state and municipality governments, of the digital transformation. And in fact, I don't believe that it doesn't matter if you advance in the technological transformation and left the people behind, the presenting this and that, and the people cannot access it. So I think this is the biggest problem that we have to resolve. But I believe it's more than that. And when I talk about the services, zero click, the service, every day appears a person wanted to get to know our program and the strategy of the data and the public policies based on evidences. But
When the guy did not recharge his phone for 3 months, he's going to lose his number. And then it's not only him being disconnected, but I lose the access with that guy in the base, my base. So sometimes the credentials of the parking lot is not going to work because of that. This is the point that I want to make clear. The digital inclusion is a problem that is not only for the citizen. Our strategies of digital transformation also depend of those structures. So then I am going to say by competency, I have this criticism in relation to the roles. I think it's important that the federal government understands their role and the municipalities and all of the involved, because what could happen is us trying to do too many things in an organized way and they don't do their own. What do I want to say with this? Today we have serious problems of public policies where we run against the municipalities and the states, the Wi-Fi in the squares. If we don't have a coordination of what is the role of the federal government and state and so on, we're each gonna do their own in a very disorganized way, and we're not going to be able to advance. So I think it's very important to make it clear. For me, the government of the state and federal, it has a more strategic way in investments and in critical infrastructure. And I'm going to pass it on directly to me, and the municipalities needs to implement it. So it's important. It's difficult for the politician to understand this because a lot of the times the politicians in the federal government wants to be delivering the computer for the citizen because in the end this is important, but he goes beyond the limitations of the municipalities and not doing what he actually needs to do. So we've been following up in an unorganized way, disorganized way, and we need to advance in this inclusion and construct this infrastructure that is needed. And I think now in the details, we need a coordination and make clear the role of the governments. David, I have an overlapping thing of efforts, and did it have any other preeminence? And then it's lacking and decided. Does this coordination exist in the side of the digital sector? We have this big involvement of MCT that is of the federal. We had big partnership with R&B and that we have today, and we've been trying to seek out the help of private sector, but it only goes through rentability. So we want to, there are locations that doesn't have the revenue for this private initiative, so those are the places you prioritize the Wi-Fi. Ceará is very big, Brazil is very big, so there are districts that a little bit hard to have fiber in all of those localities, but having it in one location that has access to people that is a little bit far away, but we have the availability there. I think we can make it available as well, but in the near future, I think we can increase this availability of free Wi-Fi. Can you see in your network the level of relevance of this free Wi-Fi? Rafael said that sometimes they can't charge their phone, and then there's this issue of economy seems to be cheap, and then he can't carry his phone, charge his phone. Can you see it in this demand of this Wi-Fi? Is it relevant to access those services? Yes, yes. Not the services itself, but the persons that are connected to them. I have around 2,000, 3,000 people in simultaneous activities that we've been following up. Our peak was 26,000 people connected at the same time. So is in the state, is it a lot or is it little? Taking into consideration that a lot of the 4G connectivity broadbands, I do believe it's a elevated level, getting to those people that in a way, financial way, don't have data, but then we ask them to have a device in the situation, but it reduces the costs and in front of a way to access the internet. So we've been measuring and following up with this partnership with these municipalities, also making it so we have more connected people. Do you feel that in those hard places, Rodrigo, are you taking qualification, capacity building of what we said, meaningful internet, and know what to do with the internet? How can you see this first question of digital inclusion? The first step is the infrastructure, is to be able to create connectivity. The second step is the empowerment of people. That happens with the education and graduation. So is in QR code, this is what we're talking about, digital inclusion and digital empowerment is how to develop in people that are using it critical thinking and actions of entrepreneurship and the increase of self-esteem and in this productive inclusion. I see that in this fifth industrial revolution, we go a step beyond that because it's not about connectivity only. It's how to guarantee this human utilization and how to bring in the fifth um, revolution, a techno diversity. We're talking about big techs with a few AIs that manipulate our daily commute. So, how can we bring diversity, making it so we can create AIs that are working for the development of people? When we talk about the public schools, we need to go through the phase of 100% of the connectivity in schools, but going through the phase of having 100% of the capacitation of the teachers to teach in a qualitative way their students. So it's a transformation in a country that thinking about digital inclusion through steps and not only the first step. So creating in the systemic vision this evolution. So getting this, you can resume and then we'll go back. But in the sense, considering what you see closely, the work of capacity building people that sometimes don't have the same chance of going to an university or financing a course to learn computing, how do you get employment? Is this a sector that you can get to since a digital inclusion has already happened? Are we giving the second step? Can you talk about what was possible in these communities, the people to use those learning for perfect their skills and this public power? Who are these people that are qualified and that have those softwares or services of network or public? Is the state incorporating these people? Is there any public service test for this? And are we doing this contrast with this development? And the instruments that we have today, do they work? Since we're in this event that is promoted by the Federal Court of Accounts, does this public and private arrangement works for this professional? Is it working, and did it pass in a public service? Or Rafael, is he lived in the slums in Rio de Janeiro? He worked as a carpenter. He lost his arm. He was hospitalized, and he thought his life was over. And then he saw this promotion of and then supported by his friends, he subscribed and he thought he wasn't going to pass. He passed and did 540 hours of graduation. And in the week of his graduation, throughout COVID, his mother and aunt, one of the most important people of his life, died, and the bank Itaú offered him a job, and he started working as a developer in Itaú on the Passanatelite app. And with that, he could bring a different situation, financial situation for his family, for his community. Today, he's in Magalu. Natalie, she started our course still associating to the gender, male gender, and she was so empathetic with this community that we created in this transition of gender. She graduated as a developer and with a gender of a trans woman, and today she is a big example because she says the place of uh, black black transgender woman is not in the streets, it's as a program as well. And this is what we're talking about when it comes to empowering. It's more than the access, but it's starting from the graduation, they have this development and this separation empowerment. And how can we develop codes for the states in the sense who's doing these services? Is it the public, is it the private? How does that work? I just wanted to end my speech about this distribution of competencies in this public and private sectors. The digital inclusion has some segments. One of them is the infrastructure and the access that go through having free Wi-Fi and having a network that is capable to have that, and connectivity that is mobile today is a concern of ours. We see Valley Guys and tariff for water, and why not understand the collectiveness for the society, how important it is, and thinking about something in that sense that is sustainable, of course. We're talking about initiatives that involve physical spaces of consultation, even though we have in Recife, we have those physical spaces, 8 of them, where people can go and ask for services of Connect and have access and utilize machinery and those communications where we receive those donated computers so we can take it to communities, associations. And this is part of this digital literacy and looking to this competence of capacity building and qualifying people, infrastructure and access and physical spaces, understanding where the government of the state and municipalities and third sector is finding their places. I think there's a lot of people doing this, but a coordination to me is the forward for this, is the way to go forward. So more than 16 years we have Imprel that has been developing a lot of those services inside of this public service that are, we have outsourcing as well and contracts for a determined type of time, and we have links today that are employed in those specific purposes. Empraia today has this program of open innovation. So we do a lot of development and avoiding internal development that is taking the challenge instead of put something in the streets telling what the solution is. We just talk about the problem and then hear from the ecosystem of innovation those solutions, and it's been working very successfully. We had 3 cycles already, 12 public contracts, and 4 of them are being utilized in large scale and commercialized. We have an example that talks about the lines, the queues on the where we have overbooking and having AI and looking this history of the patients. We can mark more people than it would be consulted, that we know that some of those people are not going to be there. So this is an example that is in the government of the state of Rio de Janeiro. It's been commercialized and been signed the contract with the government of Amazonas and Amazon, and it comes back to the municipalities and the investments, and we can receive from 10 to 20% of royalties. So just to close up, beyond the digital literacy, what we've been doing is the capacity building. We have the digital, in Back Digital, we have launched 2,000 programs to help people to pay their universities, and it's financed by the municipality. And we have 80% of our students have the money of 3 minimum salaries. The first salary of that person will triplicate their family revenue. So we have this diversity that is so big on these policies, and this consequence is not only the impact for those people, those families, but we've been seeing in this digital port, we've changed the face. It's not that uh, middle class young guy. We have the stereotype on the digital port. What we've been seeing is the vulnerable communities there, and stopping this box. And who has been seeing this, and we've been seeing this throughout the digital programs, and we've been creating these competencies on the state. Rafael has said solutions that the state, you are a clear example of the solution of the state infrastructure. We have the solution of the state also to give the services. Is it missing people? How can Ceará solve this? Just saying that each city in Brazil can have this digital port, which is the area of this. In the case of it's a hub of technology and responsible. That we're only talking about Ceará Conectado, but we also have empowering and knowledge in the technology and partnerships with big techs, Google rooms, and the Pitaguari, which is the first one, and trying to access the territory. And is a metropolitan area of Fortaleza, and about justice and education, other organs, and also we have more than 30,000 courses, WS, and other big techs thinking about this technological knowledge of those vulnerable communities. So, thinking on that side in a general way, throughout the business model with those initiatives, we can give a lot of expectations of the states and SINA from the federal, and making it so all the states can be implemented. And we are the sixth state actually, with the biggest emission of yes in Brazil, and that the minister wants that we have more than 100 million next year. So the state of Ceará is doing this, doing technology, divulging through big techs what we can evolve and empower as a technology for our population. We are in the last seconds actually. I have been following up this sector more than 15 years. And what I've been hearing here, and I'm going to ask just a small speech of each one to synthesize in the way we've been advancing on this digital inclusion, being that this state is doing this directly or with partnerships, and we have efforts in a way to create this capacity building to deal with those technologies and help the development of the state. What is it missing in each of your areas? 30 seconds. What should be our next step? What is the biggest issue that you see at the moment? We need to go through this side. I'll start with David and Rafael and then finish with Rodrigo. Let's try to be quick to finish it. Thank you very much. It's very broad what's missing. It's a lot. So I want to solve this right now. So I just want to talk about the panel and the connectivity. What I need to conclude is my third phase. And I did the first, the second, and just to close up the municipalities with the free internet and the points of the city. So this is the objective. There are a lot of others. It's very broad, but this is objective in this conversation that we're having today is the priority. I'm gonna go to the municipalities. I think the biggest challenge of the municipalities is the social assistance. I think social assistance is to look to the fragile bird is the challenge that we have when the health, education, and public security we could advance, but how do we deal with the homeless population, and how can we deal with that? And the to commend and understand the priorities and of the health and other segments as well, how the technology can make it this happen. I think this is the biggest challenge that we have in the municipalities. Just you said something about education is the new paradigm. I don't know, but with your experience, what do we need to invest? That hasn't been firm yet. There's a moment in our society that is fundamental. The impact that is collaborative is not a moment for you to have your ONG or your company or work isolated in your government or municipality. This is why I have hope in this plan of digital inclusion is the perspective of coalition, of systemic vision, how to unite efforts and those societies with the public powers, the companies, and academy, and together create an action of collaborative action that can transform our country. This is a vision that we have of transforming an impact and learning with all of the moments of the humanity has evolved with this collaborative impact. When you get the civil movements and Martin Luther King or Gandhi in the South Africa, the India, this is what I'm talking about. Collaborative impact, and we having audits in Federal Court of Accounts. This solves the systemic visions for the country. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, David. Thank you, Rafael, and all of you that have watched through the internet or here. Thank you very much.
We'd like to thank the presence of all the participants of the sixth panel mediated by Luis Grossmans. We ask them for you pose for the official photograph for this panel. The conductor of the Nissan Kicks automobile of the plate 1984, please go to the parking lot. At this moment, we're gonna have a little cough break. We're gonna back to the six and no, the 4:15 for the next panel.
Solicitamos a
We ask everyone that may take your seats right now, and we kindly ask for you to keep your cell phones on the mute mode, on the silent mode.
Senhoras e senhores,
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna keep going with the seventh panel. We now inform you for the participants that in the present area you can make some questions by the end of the session to some formulas that we gave it to you. And by the end of each panel, the questions are going to be directed to the moderator. For the seventh panel, we invite the the advisor Fábio Lefer Guimarães. The consultative counselor of the Development Institute of Rural Without Border, Maciela Alfaia, the president of the Brazil Wellbeing Institute, Marcelo Saldanha, and the counselor of Brazilian um, Cristiane Sanches. Cool. Now, with the floor, Moderadora Flavia Lefer, that is going to start to moderate the panel and the debate. Well, good afternoon to you all. I'd like to start on behalf of the Institute IPAF, thanking this invitation. That is an honor to be here, and congratulating TCU for the excellent work that the report that was published demonstrate from the audit that has been made to see how is the public policies of inclusions, digital inclusions, and what is the situation that we have today considering this new approach of connectivity, meaningful connectivity, and also to congratulate not only for the work that as usual is excellent and is robust and they're produced by the outcome, that is a area that we work a lot, and always we are always drinking through the phone to this works, and also congratulations for the fact they published the work and promote the seminar because it's a way to involve all of the agents that have interesting in these agendas that is a topic of general interest in for the development of the country, approach strategic points for all of the sectors of the society. They make it viable that we do the exercise of social control. We can make the social control when we have transparency, when we have open between the public powers and society, and to have access of information and act as we as as we have in our constitutions, and to be here in this last panel is good, that it was really rich. It's a point that caught my attention at this special moment where we not only have only the awareness of the social inclusion when I consider the factors of the meaningful connectivity, and but for me what was what noticed most that a lot of times in a lot of speeches we see that maybe the regulation could be something uh, to the opposite of that stop us from the innovation. In this sense, I'd like to introduce this worry that innovation is not a value by itself. The innovation has value when in fact we attend the public interest, when it's adequate to the needs of the society, when presents tools that make viable strategy measures of public policies and attending the demands and the regulation. So it's an instrument of a structure of our institutions to avoid the great problems of that these new technologies can bring. Of course, they bring also great things. For me, that was born in the 60s, today I can have access to the internet and all of these benefits, AI. We don't want to be against the innovation, but we know the risks that all these new technologies bring to us, especially for them being the control of companies from the United States connected to a government that, of course, has a position. And by the way, yesterday the President Trump said that he liked President Lula, but I don't think that's enough for them to stop being given pressure for we wanted to regulate the AI, and we see in our Congress when we talked about it of the discussions that it has been happening, like the bill that talks about AI. Then I suggest all of you that you see a news about the public said, to see how much the big tech spend in Europe and United States. In each of these places, Europe was 64 millions of euros in lobby. In the United States, 54 billion of euros. And over here, we don't have transparency, but by what we saw in the bill the 2338, we imagine that the lobby on within the Congress may be happening in a strict way. And also another aspect that caught my attention I think that I believe that has to be highlighted is the reality that we have of having in the classes only 3% of the populations with levels of meaningful connectivity, and the class A 63%, as it shows the precious studies of CTI that are departments in that deserve all of our support at this moment when we discuss how is gonna be the governance of these new technologies. I don't want to go further, but I only like to reaffirm the importance of the regulation, and not only the regulation of the public branches use the enforcement of the laws that we have, like the civil mark milestone of the internet, that bring back to the concept of universalization the service of internet as it was on the promulgation of the constitution in 88 and with the amended in 1995, to promote privatization and promote the access to the internet. We retake this with the framework in 2014 because established that is essential server for the citizens, and we cannot have these limit plans that of the limitations of the internet that stop us to have a meaningful connectivity. And I also like to to say that this is a topic that I've been working for a long time, and the people from TCU know that. Yesterday, I couldn't, I was moved about the information that José Carlos Galiza said that the partner of Dollar Bideu, that the connections are not only doing with by a technology that is from a North American company that is what we have today, but it doesn't have public money. We don't have support by public money, and we have to do some charity to do these connections. When we unfortunately last we just started to make a deal with Oi that we delivered with the report from the TCU, 100 billions of public money for Oi to, and also to Vetal for the company that we have that they have part of it that is controlled by BTG Pactual. I'd like that to see there's 100 billions of part of it that is stayed with José Carlos Galiza, OAB, NUPEF that has been doing a great work. Unfortunately, has to use this satellite connections of low orbit by Elon Musk that has a problem with our Supreme Court. Say and show that today, if we have access to the internet in a minimal, reasonable way to drive our country, is because we have a branch that represents the small and medium providers. They are from Marcel, the Brazil Wellbeing Institute, and a lot of other programs that we saw here. And that's why I'm very proud to be a moderator in this panel and listen the experiences of our colleagues. I'm gonna open the floor. We're gonna have we have a provision to have a representative from the Itaú Institute, and he couldn't make it because he was sick. So we're gonna start with Marciele, that is a lawyer from the University of Amazon, specialist in previdential law, partners and founder of the Advogados office. So I'm gonna pass the floor for her that represented the Without Borders, and I'm gonna ask you some questions on in what way the EDR articulates the digital manners of the agriculture to strengthen the supply chain in the local area, and where is the most importance of the adoption of digital tools to communities that doesn't have a structure. And I'm gonna add one of me, where do you find your resources, the financial part, to keep on your project? You have 15 minutes. Marciali, please. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the invitation of TCU. This honors us a lot as an institution, and I'm gonna answer the question presenting the institution. By the end, we're gonna have an answer. We're gonna talk about digital citizenship for the development of the rural. For the DR without borders, the meaningful connectivity should come with the citizenship, should should have the freedom for the user for what to do in a virtual environment. The user that we are going to talk about is the rural worker. I'm going to position the audience that we work with. The rural worker, they need to determine themselves. They have to take decisions. They have to have the freedom of use the government platforms that they are in the digital environment to access the public policies. And we notice that they don't have this capability. Oh, it's really small. And I'm gonna say that the place that I'm gonna talk most is the Amazon, the state of Pará, where the DR have an intense actions. Let me pass the slides to start talking. So, meaningful connectivity for us is when this rural worker could access the public policies, and they are there for them in a virtual environment, as I said, but they have to have the knowledge and information to access. So, this image that we see over here of a rural worker that it seems very peaceful accessing his cell phone actually is not our reality in the Amazon. He in the image he's accessing, and he's gonna choose to connect to the PA that is in the virtual environment. I'm gonna access my insurance. I'm a fisher. I'm gonna go to the social services. But do you know if he can do that? Of course he cannot do that. But beyond that, what we observed, he has the Gov password in a plastic. They have the Gov it in plastified, and they have that as like a card, and that it's embarrassing for us when we see that. It's like they have that number for someone else to access for them. This is the reality that we have. So this is not a the public policies that he made to access it is in the internet, it's in the cell phone, but they don't have it. It's not the reality. So how where the DR act taking these informations of the public policies for them? Let me pass once again to show our actions in a organized civil society. We believe And it's how we work that the civil society, organized, is capable to do that. And I say that because we are doing that. And so over here, we have an example of the action of the IDR with the people of the forest. IDR doesn't have internet to give to him. We do when we have connections that we send the internet for these communities. But IDR have the professionals that is a multidisciplinary group from agronomes, lawyers, specialized in the rural workers society, and we take our knowledge for them. We make in partnerships with connection uh, happens like this. We gave some classes that indigenous community quilombolas, they take these classes, and we say that in these classes we teach them about their rights. We we make we we directed them on, in to make them understand how to access the public policies. This image show one of our classes. This is for the social program A Minha Casa Minha Vida and My House My Life, and we have some to show to the community, and it's the way that it's happening. And with the connections, we go only here, but IDR believe it's how we see, how we understand the connectivity, the meaningful connectivity happens if we go to the field. So we understand that we have to go to the communities and do some workshops. Just a minute because it's not passing. Can someone else pass for me? We believe that go into the field, into the go to the into the communities, support our rural workers, because for us have a we gave a meaning to this public policy, and to understand what does rural worker do, we have to do a rural diagnosis. We want to understand the profile of that person. Otherwise, we are talking about public policies that, of course, they're gonna have interest, but how they are gonna access that is more complex than you believe. For an example, the rural worker is reality from the Amazons. We have works the Ribeirinho workers that they fish, but they don't have the fish. They are agriculture. They are also farmer. This rural worker, they cannot access the insurance, and that is very hard for them to understand. One time at times he fish, but he can and must have to have the register of a fisher. And how can you demand this for this worker to understand that we're gonna access the Fish Brazil to have a register for them, and with that prove to the state that I also do the rural activities and access the social benefits, but I'm not gonna access the defense insurance. So what happens? The most of them access the defense insurance, and they have other register that demonstrate other activity, agriculture for an example. They have their number suspended for inconsistent on the system, fraud, or something else. See how we punish this rural worker twice. We don't give them the meaningful connectivity, and the other one is when we are still saying that he's make make some kind of fraud. And we know that because we are from IDR, we are members, invited members of the working group of Minister of Fishing, and we wanted to be a participative worker to talk about the register of the fishers, because we understand the defense insurance as a neck hole, a bottleneck, and we see the most we talk about that in the communities, because they can have their rights and not be accused by fraud. because a lot of times they do that just because they don't know anything. That's what we observe. So over here we have an image and the pictures of our actions and connectivity, meaningful connectivity.
Is to connect this rural worker with what he needs to be empowered. And what he needs to be empowered is his reality. We need to understand his reality and make it so he thinks about that. He recognizes himself. What is my main activity? What is my main work? How am I going to register myself? So we try uh, in the best way to teach them. And I'm not from a jurisdiction and social workers to take this understanding to them, and so they will have the freedom to decide and be in front of the platforms of the government. So the digital citizenship and the sustainable development and agro, this is a logic for us. We understand that after you empower the community with information and assertive information, where you really had done the diagnosis and understood the main activity of work of those people, you have directed. Starting from then, we have to have actions to have this chain of production. We need to take and make it so they can actually develop their activities because they've already positioned themselves. They were able to understand which is the public policies that they need to address, and we can understand that they are positioned for the sex. And this is how we think, because I do believe that we that are here think this way. When we think about developing our profession, I've wished to be a lawyer. I've researched about that. I had a conscience about that. So we put ourselves in this place and think about the rural worker. He needs this same conscience. He wants to be a big producer of acai, or if we don't, as a state and civil society, we're talking about what we do, and if we don't take that into account, they are going to access the wrong public policies, and it's so bad for us, and it's damaging for them and for the state. So this is the action of participant of this general registry of the rural fishermen, where the ministry does this capacitation, building, and works with us to support us. And the big classes or virtual meetings, as we call them, and the emissions of their registry as fishermen, that then when we give it to this community, they already understand that I'm not living through fishery. I don't fish and live exclusively of that. So I'm going to have my little license, and then I'll have my rights in there. But I'm going to do other activities. If the lives of fishery, he's going to get into the chain of fishery. So we've created this engineering of fishery. We had the fish burger. We created those campaigns, let's say projects, that are not ours but everybody's. All the associations of uh, fishery and agriculture that is the part of the chain of, so they can look at the end of the chain and start to imagine themselves inside of this development. And this work, this technical assistance, is done by our professionals and people that support us in the society, researchers, students of fishery engineering. And we are taking this work is what we are engaged on right now, because the craftsmanship of fishery is going through trouble, and we're doing this triage through people. Are you a fisherman? No, you go this side. Are you you're part of this productive chain, and then we're getting engaged with the community. Another program. Oh, I have a video. Just a minute. Just to give it to you. The fish burger video before I continue. It's a very small video. We are here today in the Seu Civil land doing this control of quality of water so we can start our project of fish burger. My name is Silvio. We have this action in the morning and the afternoon. On Fridays, we'll take the fish out and put in this office and then we'll sell it. Is taking care of the raw materials that we can take this quality food of health and quality to the consumer's table. I thought this is a great project that is going to be so innovative for my business and my clients that can have the consumption of a quality fish. On IDR Without Frontiers, we believe that we have quality in the origin. That's where it starts. As the objective is to engage, I don't have to explain why we have this song. This in the north in the Pará, we really like this song, so this is why. A project that we could do so the communities could access public policies was the PAA. The PAA that we can have the support of those communities to approve is for this region of Baixo Tocantins of state of Pará. So it's not one municipality, we're a bunch of municipalities in which we could engage communities and associations so they could gather and join efforts so we could have a proposal together with this assembly. It's important to say we work in this model of a solidarity economy. And we, with this first image, is an assembly of IDR where these people can be presidents of associations. They are deciding how we're going to work the PAA. Since they're from diverse municipalities, we needed to have as many registries as we could in the rural community workers. So they organized themselves, and we joining efforts with each one had, we could think of how to do this production. So those boats is what IDR has taken to the communities. The presidents were contemplated with this boat. They had the duty to give this production from one place to another until it comes to the final destination, which is the Technological School of Cametá. This is our proposal. So this is an integration and a development from this region of Tocantins, and we could do that. We, when I say we, is the whole chain, all of them. They've been working a lot for this because they were organizing CAF and it wasn't adequate for this quilombolas communities. Wasn't saying on CAF that it was quilombolas, so we had to ratify and them working actively and trying to organize their registry, and this active participation of the community is going to make it so 2 years this big group of producers, rural producers that can do in their production for the school, the Technological School of Cametá. Thank you, Marciali. Can you later tell us about the costs? How can you do this work, give support or financially for all this work that you've shown us so we can guarantee the time. I'm going to go through Marcelo Saldanha, which is active digital activist and policies of telecommunications. Since 2008, he has supported more than 20 chains, community chains. This is the focus of his work. And this is a collective of more than 50 entities that take care of universality and digital rights and communication. I'm not going to give all the curriculum, but I'm going to go straight to the questions directed to you. So, how IBEBI can measure the success of those communitary chains in terms of digital inclusion opportunities, and what are the strategies that have worked to engage, in fact, the young people on those rural territories and urban territories in these technological creations in their communities. And if you have any news, because we talk about remote areas, but we cannot forget that in these big urban regions, as São Paulo, for instance, where I live, when you go to the slums, you have a very bad access on Avenida Paulista, one antenna for each 1,500 users. And then when you go to Tiradentes, you have one antenna for 18,000 users, which is absolutely takes to this supply of services that are not no have no quality, and we have difficulty to defend those plans, the finishing those plans with those franchises that are limited. Can you speak about that a little bit? Well, Flavia, good afternoon. Still, yeah, good afternoon to all. I'm surely at the end of this presentation, I'm going to approach these themes because they're very important. We're going to talk about them. And I would like to thank the opportunity of TCU and all the uh, team that is giving this support to do this event. And I'm just going to speak a little bit about the Institute. Flavia has this really good presentation, but I'd like to highlight this Institute 2018. We also participate in other spaces and spheres of this political debate and in regulation on when it comes to digitalization. They are part of this network of more than 40 entities defending their human rights and digital rights, and is part of the Interlight Society and the National Community Services. And we are now having as a member the GTI PNI that's participating on this offer chamber. 3 years ago, we could have this discussion with Anatel about this regulation evolution, and we had this agency, commentary agency, and in international level, as I'm going to say a little bit more later, we've participated with this dynamic coalition of communities of this communitary connectivity. So this institute has as a mission the universality with the access of internet, and we act specifically or in a more emphasized way with these policies of communitary network and those public actions on those digital services. Let's go to the slides. So a basic thing that we need to tell you, what are the communitary networks, even though they have this diversity that is relative in different models, small differences, some things are very strong. Firstly, is that is an infrastructure of telecommunications and TIC that has as a basis the conception of this infrastructure and the administration of this infrastructure by the communities. And this happens today with those complementary supportive partners that will make those infrastructures for those networks and datas and ONGs that have this potential to borrow money and investing because it's not a business. but they also have the support, technical support that is complementary because they need to appropriate from this knowledge, technical knowledge, and this is why they go through a process of capacitation building to try to absorb this knowledge and start doing the management of their own networks. And to simplify even more, can you imagine you in your house learning how to uh, browse and this little equipment that gives signal for your whole house, and it will reach a broadness, geographic broadness that is bigger. Basically, in technical terms, is this conception, but it's not only about connectivity. Firstly, is from base is this self-managing um, program for their territories, but not only consume this access, but to produce and try to understand in a critical way the technology that is implanted that they use every day. So it promotes of entrepreneurship as having this communitary radio or TV or portals of communication of local content production that is relevant for that population that wouldn't stop them to also give other information that is also relevant. But this access as a fundamental right is the part that touches our mission as well. One thing that is important to highlight, and it's in discussion with Blinky and other providers, to have this comprehension that the communitary networks is complement, is not a model that would compete with the commercial traditional models, because we're talking of another target audience with different access, and it's turned to this local development and strengthening of culture and the traditions of these people. So mainly, we cannot deny the infrastructure, the access also has a demand of the communities where the market cannot reach, or the value is too expensive, or the service is not satisfactory. So we have a provocation here. If the person has connectivity but cannot use the essential services of inclusion, we need to reflect on those issues. And I see that my time is running out. I'm gonna run with it. The global context that is related to it is very quickly. The communitary networks is a global event. We're not only talking about Brazil. This is something that's been happening since the 2000s, and this debate is done internationally with UIT, which is the International Union of Telecommunications, and inside of GF, which is the Forum of Governance of the Internet, which is the space of the debate of the civil society. And the focus of the international debate is how to viabilize economically these initiatives so we can promote the universal access that is complementary on the traditional models. In Brazil, the CETIC, that always that's so good that it exists, the CGI and all that, they've done a research to try and understand this demand in Brazil. They could identify 64 initiatives of those communitary networks in the country, and this also has culminated in a more accumulated debate for creation of this national movement. And 3 years ago, we could do this organization in a national level that is bigger. And this communitary research that today has more than 90 representations of leaderships and communities and representatives and entities that work inside with this topic, activists, the academia, and other people from the technical community as well. So this movement that is more organized, that can do this critical debate of these policies and try and transform all this collective transformation into implementation and the expansion of those networks in Brazil. This number is from 2023, 64 networks. This number has grown and we cannot follow up still this mapping, but it was created last month on the website of Anatel with GTR.com to try and register and see the demands, communitary demands in Brazil. And then there's another provocation. If we have this social basis that is organized on the territories and the technical capacity, what is missing for us to have reach scale?
Some of the networks that I'm gonna quote over here are two international and two nationals, and is the Portal Without Borders in São Paulo is a community, agricultural community. They support each other to maintain the network. They work with the agroecology and a lot of local activities of substances. And it's a very nice network that is in Monteiro Lobato. And this is the one that we act in Rio de Janeiro. Marrecas is one of the networks in a complex of community networks that we have four community networks that are Marrecas, Quixaba, Barra do Açu, and Cazumbá. But in Cazumbá, there are more five community networks that are mobilizing themselves to have their own network. They are very close to each other. But, but the nice things about this complex of networks that the ones that are older and achieve they balance the point and knowledge, they help the other ones, the neighbor networks, when they are still getting there. This is very nice to talk about it. And the GiftNet is the oldest one and the biggest one in the country is in Spain. I don't have the numbers, but it were more than 32,000 points of connections. So is an example, and with the support of the European community, the government, it's work all in the back hall of GiftNet. It's with the support of the European government, and the other one is the TIC-AC, that is indigenous community in India in in Mexico. They have the support for community network, and now we hear they work with communication through the mobile cell phones. And over here we have the regulations advances. Network community networks since 2010 they have been discussing about the public policies and how they participate in these guidelines. And in 2013, after a lot of debates, it regulated some norms and that they can give the access to internet in 2017. And continuing this debate, we could have the authorization. They don't have anymore to have a license from Anatel. They pass just for the register to have this, and helped a lot for the small providers and also for the communities to easier this process. In 2024, after a lot of debates of the agencies, we could start the social use of spectrum through by polygons. So within this community, any frequency that you can use to anything, and that is really an advance, phenomenal advance that we are gonna have some fruits for the next years. Let me skip this because we don't have any time. What are the barriers that exist today? The first of all, for those who want to discuss anything of public policies, you it's not only in on the words. You have to go and fight for the budgets. You can know this as the most important point. And what is the fruit of the barriers that we live today? They are always that we have this in the report of TCU. The PP8 2025 until 2024 until 27, it focus of huge infrastructures. Backhaul, that is the part of the infrastructure that is connect all of the municipalities through the center part of the in the countries, and in 4G and 5G as a saving the agriculture, hmm? The crops. And the guidelines, besides that, the regulatory advance doesn't have a guideline on a program of the government. So we have a debate for the last 2 years with the Minister of Communications, and I believe that with PNID right now we can establish these guidelines of programs of the public policies in the ministry. But it is still a barrier, even if it's close to be solved. Another problem that we have was management, no, changes on the management. All of the discussions that we have in the ministry, we have to start all over again, that this is a problem. Public resources, basically as PPAs for the big infrastructure, we have to highlight, and it is in the report of TCU, the the social the social part is not equivalent, but they have to have us the public interesting for this to work to be worth it. That is a problem that we have, that is fruit from PPA. The first that is a fund of telecommunications, with the resources that we lost it, we still have contingents yet. And I believe that we have the support from the government to amplify these values and to be, in fact, applying the public policies of connectivity and digital part. Lack of management, I'm not going to go into details. Just read the TCU report because this is spectacular. Congratulations once again for the great job that TCU is doing. And the other problem, and we saw through these 2 days, and is the promotion of these connectivities that doesn't show the reality of the situation that we live. So I'd like to highlight one thing: meaningful connectivity, while the 5G has the franchise of data, and while the mobile technologies that has this model that you put a lot of things on it, when do you have the economical availability that they want as profit, is not a meaningful connection. So the one is that a fixed broadband, and that is a research from Oakland. And now I don't have any more time, so I'd like to show you the PPA, how it's divided. What is in yellow are the investments of private infrastructure with the public money for mobile technology. What is in green is public money for private institutions and infrastructure of backhaul. Some of the points of the government as a school and UBSs, and basically is this. And just to concluding, what do we want from the government? Because I believe that the conclusion I led by to the end to say that we, especially in the most important actions that we have, that is, I'm not gonna have time to explain this. From Anatel, we conquer a lot of things with all of the problems of discussions that we have with Anatel. At this problem, we can see that they engaged a lot to do things, to make things happen. We just now have to create a committee and a tax for the use of spectrum and homologation of the equipments for the communities in a simple way. Medium term, we have to support the Bill 4721 that included the digitalization of fundamental, that that institute the public policies of digital inclusion of the municipalities in Brazil. The digital inclusion doesn't occur in the state and all of the territory of Brazil, is only in the municipalities. And the PL 3501 that today the people from Recife says the internet sponsored, that is from the citizen choose what technology they want to use with its benefits. Okay, so I complement in the debate what we have here. I'm just gonna make observation to add what Marcelo said in a way that we are thinking. Let's think that we have the law of technology that was added in '97, prevent that it has the networks that were they have public nature, and they Anatel should probably make some norm to benefit that part of the capability of this network was shared with the community networks that Anatel didn't do, in, in spite that most people, the total of telecommunication networks in Brazil are associated with the private regime, but the the law of telecommunications, they said that the Anatel could regulate because the private one could do a social works. Not only Anatel, but the regulation agencies, they have to attend to the demands of the economical part of the private sector, as we see in the way that we can say the Brazilian population has access to the internet, to mobile devices, like Anatel showed us today, with all of the restrictions, without making any effort to amplify this access. So I'd like to pass the floor to Cristiane Sanchez from Abrinch. She's graduated in law by USP and FEUSP in economy, is specialized in business law, and she also have the specialize of digital rights from Beckman and Klein Center for Internet and Society, Harvard University, Cambridge in the United States, and a master degree in international relations for the Santiago program. And there is a lot of things more in her curriculum, but it's available for you in the program of our seminar. I wanna pass to Cristiana some questions. What are the initiatives of Abrinch that has been shown more effective to amplify the actions of the providers in municipalities of low income, low return, and how to balance the economical sustainability of the providers with the accessible taxes for the vulnerable people? And I'd like to add over here, if you can say, how can you dispute resources and financial with the huge providers that dominate the market, especially the mobile one of BNDS? If you have a regulation that guarantee that in fact you can access the resources that today more than 50% of the the broadband has been doing by the effort of exclusive effort of you. So now you have the floor. You have 15 minutes, Cristiane. Thank you very much. Thank you, Flavia. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you very much to see you on behalf of Paulo by the invitation. It's an honor to be discussing the digital inclusion because it's essential for everyone. So I'd like to show you a historical overview to show how we have to rethink about the infrastructure and start to think about your questions. In Brazil, the internet is very particular. Brazil is a success case about the interiorization of the access of network and the fixed broadband. It started in '95 when we have a governance based in the norm fourth. So it's an essential pillar on how we get to know and use the internet today. Besides this governance aspect, we have in 2012 the opening the broadband. market, and especially from 2017 in 2023, we have like a boom in this market in Brazil. It wasn't only related with the pandemic and the demand that we have of course about the home office. It's not related only to these. We have a migration, massive migration of the connections of the broadband to fiber, so we have a change of the technologies in in the house of people, and of course an effective amplification of the number of accesses. So if we look the historic period from 17 to 22, and then we pass a little bit to 2025, what do we see? In 2024, we have more or less 4 million of new access, inc- the incremented the broadband fixed in Brazil. 4 million is a lot. There's a lot of countries in Europe that together in the year doesn't have what Brazil do. But after 24, this base of amplification of the access is was fading away, and in 2025 we see a drop of these new enters in the fixed broadband. In the by the point of view of infrastructure, we have a country that that has a lot of connections, with no doubt, but we are in the moment that we have a stagnation of the mass that we treated in the past. So the past with the mobile broadband with public policies that were directions with some questionable results, and back then in function to the adequate governance and a public regulatory to have this internalization of the excess of network, especially in optic fiber. So we are talking about the stagnation of this mass. What do you have to look effectively the pillars of all of the tunnels that approach the meaningful connectivities? So what happens today is that we have, I said, thank God, data's and we have showing that the the connectivity as a point of view of infrastructure, it doesn't resolve our framework. We have to have the digital abilities, we have to have a financial accessibility, the security, the use of the dates, other elements that the comfort, and since 2025 to 2005, the meaningful connectivity. If we look to the infrastructure as something that is not enough to resolve the problem, the problems that we have now, how can we think in new ways of achieve this meaningful connectivity? As the point of view of financial of these networks, we have to have a view that is not from the market, that is not center of the private sector, because if it's like this, we will continue skating. Otherwise, the public policies to extend their dominions on the financial of the infrastructure that is still not enough in some remote areas. They need a vision not for the private market but for the foster and guarantee of the fundamental human rights. So start at the moment that I take the focus of these topics of the dynamic of the private market, I start to englobe a lot of issue is like the universal right to the connectivity. So in this way, naturally, we are getting closer to the connectivity as an ability for the exercise of the citizenship. For the example of the Fisher and the North region of our country show us that the people need to have this connectivity, that digital ability to have access and use the right, the human rights that they have. So when we talk about meaningful connectivity and the absence of infrastructures in some areas, we have to understand that doesn't exist only one model. The notion that one size fits all doesn't exist this anymore. Every place has a specific demand, and the municipalities, it makes all of the difference. And that's when it starts the actions of the brink and the regional providers. Those providers, they are immersed in municipalities. So when this connectivity arrive in the municipality, the provider starts being a saver of that community. The the insert in the history of this municipality in a different way. And because of these, because of disclosures that they have with their clients and the local need, they have a complete inversion of what it means. For an example, the negative VPL or a negative one. If you look to the transitions of the huge the companies. So the calculation of EPL for the municipalities in the remote areas and rural areas is very different from the traditional calculus that we do by the mass based on a backbone infrastructure. So
So the slides of Marcelo about the initiatives and the colors, right, is so sensational, Marcelo, because it makes visual everything that we already have in the report of TCU. So we need to understand that this VPL, it starts to be possible because of this outcome that we had for the communities, for the providers that act in that region. So every time that we think about Brazil in policies of access, in which I look to this spectrum as a something that is missing, and I direct the access of the spectrum to those licensed actions only, we are far away from the meaningful connectivity. We are far away from reaching our potentials of change and transformation that we have in PNID. Every time that we look at this public policy that makes it not characterize this regulation for small companies and communitary chains, we keep getting further and further from this. So there's a series of elements of the public policies and regulation that can be transformed and relocated in a vision in which the man, the citizen, is in the center of attention. So through the financing, because budgeting is everything, it goes because to amplify the basis of fonts of financing, sources of financing. It's not only sources on the state and government and the private companies, is this enlarging of a basis to make that viable. So BG works way better the premises of increasing the spaces of financing that BNDES does. BNDES has this natural paralyzation that makes it hard for this to happen. So, on the other hand, when Brazil needs the creation of this fund that will guarantee this happens, and this fund for infrastructure and TICs takes a long time. So it doesn't really come up. So we need to think about connectivity facing the infrastructure and very close to policies that are assertive to make that last mile to be citizens. So when we look to this project of law, a regulation policies and that are in project of law that we have discussions in Colombia about in citizen internet, we had access very uh, recently, and there we have this transformation because in this project of law from the Colombia, they have this transversal subsidium which is and the access of the internet. And a few years ago this project of law would be a bomb, but to attend to those communities and to bring those pillars of meaningful connectivity, you need to think outside of the box. So this transversal this society that will give something that the others don't have with this subsidy exchange that goes beyond the role of the state is the state is making this, and society needs to be able to do this, and there's no people today to do this. And we had the report of UT of connectivity in remote areas and vulnerable areas, and the values came from the work that is done from Brazil with this north that was connected. We're talking about UIT, 2.6 million people that are not connected, and then non-connection is an access for 3 months. So it's a little bit weird to talk about the one access for 3 months, but we still have this reality. So 2.6 billion need trillions of dollars to be able to make this happen, to do something. So it was the first time that we had this number that is compactable to what we've been treating already in the past with public policies and access of resources of BNDES. So as association of regional producers, they have this very active role in the ministries mainly, but has a big participation with the UTD and is going to be member of UTR and CTEL. So we have this international role that is very significant. And we take the Brazilian experience, but we are tickled by those other initiatives by the Colombian as well. So this is it, Flavia. We can continue this discussion later. I'd like to remember that not only we didn't establish subsidy policies as we have done before the privatization, but the general law of technical accommodation stops the cross subsidy, which I think it's very unfair, because you have companies that are acting in areas, Vivo as a consortium, acting in a market that is highly lucrative, which is the state of São Paulo that had 46% of the market of telecommunications, and Oi acting in areas with populations with low income, with low revenue, with the necessity of investing that is very big, and we couldn't do this compensation by this cross subside with these systems of Telebrás was unified, and we lost this possibility. But how can we reverse that today, considering that we have a market on the mobile phones, where is a market that is going to grow even more and concentrated in the in few companies? How can we compensate this necessity of investing? I don't know if you have any proposals in this sense. We are going to begin the debates. I don't know if there's any questions. I didn't receive any questions here, not of the internet or the audience, but I'm going then go through the order so each one can do their considerations, and Marcieli can tell us how is the financial sustenance of those projects, and we're going to go through and then we're going to have another round. Marcieli, you have the floor. Thank you, Flavia. Our institute has a model, economical model of solidarity economy, and this spirit of solidarity has moved really to maintain our institute for 4 years. And our institute was funded in 2021, and is being maintained with the support of my law firm of leaderships and presidents of associations of fishery and agriculture, the ones that are in our chain, and we support their work. Our associations of the quilombolas, they have an exemption, and we have a small fee of contribution is how we maintain the ones that are producing something and they have any supply. They support the ones that are not. They receive our support for free. So we count on the support of the universities, the professionals. We are a multidisciplinary company, and everyone is very passionate about what they do. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. We need purpose and really will and like what they do. And thank God, God really, we have these people. So teachers from the University of Amazon, UFRA, of the state of Pará, that support and like our work. So they send students, our interns there, and they all work there. The interns that are the ones that are exemplary students, let's say, they're very welcome, and they can do like big classes with us too. They can get into the chain for us to give this support. So basically, that's it. I was gonna ask Flavia for you to remember me again, the questions that you've sent me. But one thing that I think that is worth mentioning is I think this talks a lot with all the stories that we've heard today of initiatives of digital inclusion that are from the communities. And this is well reflected on PBA. So there are no budgeting actions or programs of government that are, directing and being able to attend this demand of digital inclusion and connectivity. So in relation to the communitary chains, it's not very different. Populations that are historically excluded socially of the rights of the essential services, and then for sure they will have the access of connectivity as well as a bonus, and they will gather in this organic process to try and solve their local problems. And then we talk about internet is only one of the problems. We have so many, and but they gather, they are involved in this process to appropriate minimally of that knowledge. And we're talking about financial support that are coming from international entities that, because in Brazil we don't have that. As I said, the budgeting does not attend to this demand for those policies, and they are warriors because after they put the networks together and they distribute this service for the part of the population that was excluded, that service cannot stop. And when it stops, is exactly that sensation, that feeling, frustrating feeling of what we're going to do to recuperate that. So all this debate again, I don't know how many times it's possible for us to think the role of the Federal Court of Accounts. They give us direction to pressure the government so the policies happen, and the resources that are destined to those populations that are still in those numbers and even more. As I said, the indexes, only 11% of the population is missing to be connected, is fiction. And giving meaningful connection, not even going to mention that. So we hope that PNID, and I'm going to take Rodrigo's phrase, I think I hope that PNID is the moment in this in history so we can turn this page and implement public policies that are social of digital inclusion, and that we stop. I think we've spent a lot of money and gave a lot of public money to construct this privacy infrastructure of those services, and now we need to go back and attend to this part of population that is excluded. Thank you. I'm gonna pass the floor to Cristiani, but I just wanted to ask you something. These deliverables of the networks on those agreements of the consortiums that transform the concessions in authorizations with the deliverables of the networks that were public before, that had a lot of backhaul as well, and if this had any impact in the competitive field of those small and medium providers and companies, if that has put those companies in an advantage in competition as a market as a whole. Do you feel that this was something that they gained that would unbalance the market? It's even funny to think because the natural response to this question would be, oh, terrible, such a disaster that it was for the small companies. But in Brazil, we always have a little way of doing things, and this happens again here. So, for instance, in the big migration of the interconnections of Oi, at the beginning, everybody was very surprised of how this process would go. This plug, this disconnection, to use the an educated word, as you say, in the practice, the small providers and regional providers, they have been having these opportunities of growth in IP networks and central points of trafficking. They've been having these business models to support this dilemma of transition for the authorizations. So the Brazilian had, obviously, this starts in these regions that have the worst financial outcome for those big companies, and those regions are at least four or five providers of internet. So in Brazil, there is this atypical thing, really. On chaos, we in chaos we create business models and we make it happen through innovation. IP innovation. So once more, the context of the network IP and the internet is fundamental for the survival of what we have today already. And when we, as members of Pinedon Chamber offers, which is a privilege for Brint to be beside so many people that has such capacitation, Rodrigo, Marcelo, and other colleagues around here, we've seen then being published a absurd number, incredible number of initiatives related to social inclusion. And when this number has been passed on to us, it's terrible. It's 159 1,059 initiatives that UN is trying to identify, measure, and analyze. 1,059, this is a lot. Even the people who are working in the digital inclusion area don't have the notion of this volumetrics, and it shows a lack of integration, a disorganization. For Brint itself, we have a lot of difficulties. We are in this agro chamber trading a theme, and then after the committee on Anatel, having a pertinent and relevant theme that is interconnected. We need to be there exchanging information to see if everybody's in the same page. So this happens internally inside of the association. Can you imagine in Brazil as a whole? So I'd say one of the biggest challenges of the chambers is to integrate all of those initiatives. And those initiatives, they happen today without a planning, because what you predicted is that OI couldn't unplug and had the obligation to guarantee the public services, the SFC, and to be plugged through this period still. So we haven't seen that. And even if it's a business opportunity, is a path that needs to be it needs to be traveled with this framework that we have. We need a planning, pre-planning, and not now. even though that the decree of PNID is 2023, but the group only was constituted now because there was a leverage with the TCU, because we saw that TCU was doing this analysis, and then we are going to have what is possible to do. I don't know if anybody else in the table wants to say anything else. We would have 7 minutes more, I think.
Do you wanna do you wanna say anything? Cristiano is gonna say. I'd like to talk of your questions that I left without answer about the mobile market. The mobile market in Brazil is through a fake news that it is satisfied and happy and with two, three, and four company. That is not true. The mobile market in Brazil has a business model that is very broad and that is not that explored. And the exploration of these different kinds of market, it depends of the PGMC that include in their access the roaming market, international spectrum of spectral, that is the general plan of the goals of Anatel. This is economical plan of Anatel to treat the to competitions. How can I treat the mobile competition, the market, without having this instrument, the access very. So it's a market that admits a lot of other companies, that because the business model are very diverse, there is not how to think of innovative models of new aspects and access to the mobile market as with franchise, for an example. So the existence of the franchises and a lot of mobile plans, it's about the stagnations of two and three companies for the last year in this market, and when you access fomented fostered by Anatel, we have to have more models to present to the final client. I would like to complement the budget. That is information that is very important that I couldn't mention in the slide. If you look to Ministry of Communications, let's treat the ministry as the center point of the inclusion of digital inclusion. The PPA, it is a center base, but to transform it as a public state, you have to have the legislation. So I'd like just to go back to do this to just to close the cycle, because the bill of 2021 that instituted the inclusion as a fundamental right, we have to remember the fundamental right. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not a lawyer. It has this their time, the fundamental rights, they reflect the desire of the society, the desire of the people in that moment. So within a perspective, and with the so it's when you have this rights in a positive way. Yes, we have to have mechanisms of the state to charge, to understand what the society understand as a fundamental right. Defense of the Bill 47 is this: to institute the policies of the municipes, that is in the still in the House of the Deputies, that is the mobilization of the municipalities ABP to understand a little bit more of the relation of the need of this public policies. And the internet, it has a important fundamental that is in the bill that allows the foster of complementary infrastructure to guarantee that the access happens in that territory. So there is moments in this PL that they are going to guarantee a complementary infrastructure to do that this access occur in that territory, and guarantee just to guarantee a contribution to the associativist project, to have this support of the government for them to have the connectivity in their territory. And what does it mean? we transform, we taking this role of the policies and government programs that are affected in when they change the government, when they change the management, and have to start and have this as a public policies. So we have to mobilize the civil society not only around the laws, but to the PPAs and the other things that happen in each period. I would like to consider it for us to conclude what you said is, of course, it should be important to include this in the fundamental rights without a doubt, as we made with the constitutional amendment that put the protections of digital data in expressive way within the fundamental rights. But I'd like to say that the civil framework of the internet should it may have some obligations for the public policies, and it's about the federal government, states, and municipalities, and talk about digital inclusions, and and they have the universal feature for this. In the seventh article, it says that it's essential for the exercise of citizenship. So we have legal instruments to have the recognition of the feature of the human being of in the access of the internet, that it be implemented in Brazil. I criticize this fact that our public branches a lot of times are inert to this and don't promote the enforcement of the laws that we work hard to have it. You saw that it was very hard. The debates were very difficult for us to have this civil framework. So I think that we have to do that. We have to make this be implemented. I'd like to thank Cristiane, Marcelo, Marcelo, my companion TCU, for once again for the importance of this event, this effort that we know that is very important and at this point, and conclude this panel and thank all of you that heroically is here with us until the end. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. I'd like to thank the presence of all of the participants of the last panel, mediated for Flávia Guimarães. I'd like to thank all of the participation, all of the participants on the panel and our audience. And we conclude the activities of the International Seminar of Digital Inclusion and Social Transformation. We wish you a great night.
E se vocês tiverem também essa pegada